And if there is another suspect, who? Why didn't it name anybody else? I'll wait. So then we get closer to the actual murder. Oh no, I'm jumping ahead. I actually wanted to talk about a role in a movie that OJ wanted, and the movie was called Ragtime and came out in 1981. I forgot who plays the main character, but I know him because he was on The Heat of the Night and so many other things, by the way. I'll put his name at the bottom of the screen. Amazing actor. Love him. He was in a movie, and I watched clips of the movie because they were on YouTube. I don't know where the movie is, but OJ was really mad about not getting this role because he thought that he could play it really well, because he said he felt like he was him. He is him. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about the movie before we get into the murder. In the movie, it starts off, there's a white family and they hear screaming outside, and I think it's one of the maids, and she sees a black baby left in, I guess, one of their gardens or something. And they all run outside. They go up to the baby, and the woman of the house, she picks the baby up and takes the baby inside, calls the doctor, and of course her husband is totally against it. This is, it seems like it's earlier than 1981, like in the movie, like it's early 1900s or 1800s, something like that. um but the man of the house, he's totally against it because he's a black child, but the doctor checks and says that he's normal, everything's fine with his body and stuff like that, and I guess they keep him and raise him as their own. And when he gets older, I think he's confused because since he was raised by white people, he just know right and wrong. So as he's going throughout the world, he doesn't understand that black people get treated differently, regardless of their social status or how much money they have. They still get treated basically like shit. So he experiences some type of racism as he's going through town, and his way is being blocked, and he gets into an argument or whatever. The white people that are confronting him call the police, and he's like, "This is my car. He dirtied up my car. I want him to clean it. I'm not going anywhere until he cleans it." And the police is trying to explain to him, like, "Look, bad things can happen to you if you don't just let this go. Like, I'm trying to get you, I'm trying to get you to understand that this can get way worse." It was almost like he was alluding to the fact, like, "Hey, you're black and you could be killed right now for this, for you making this scene. So why don't you just go ahead?" He was trying to help, but I think because of his upbringing and stuff, he didn't understand. So it was just like spiraling. He meets this black guy, an older black man, and I'm assuming he's coming to ask him for some advice. And he's basically telling him to take his money and marry his wife and just live a quiet life. And the man is confused, and he's just like, "What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm supposed to just learn how to be a nigga, like, and fold over?" Like, that's basically what he says. And he turns out to, because of his confusion, he turns out to live a life of crime. I guess the situation that happened to him made him very angry, so he started to want to get back at the people, at the white men that had, interrupted his day, messed with his car. So it just spiraled out of control. He ended up getting shot by the police. And yeah, so because of his confusion of thinking that he was a part of the white community, he ended up living less years and just really being confused because there was no conversation that was had. I just thought that that was important because when he was doing the interview, the lady was asking him about Nicole, and you're with a white woman, and I wouldn't ask you this if we weren't in the times that we're in. But She was saying stuff like that, and then he was bringing up the role Ragtime and how he was saying he didn't get the part, and then he thought he could play it very well. Moving forward, the murder happened June the 12th, 1994. Nicole and Ron Goldman, he was a friend of Nicole's. Both of them were stabbed to death. The kids were upstairs in the house when it happened. They were stabbed to death outside multiple times. Nicole's throat was like slashed from underneath her chin on both sides. So there was like an opening that you could see. And Ron he was stabbed like in his abdomen, in his neck. Like it was just blood everywhere. And I'm sure you guys have seen the crime scene photos of the blood all along like the backyard patio. It's just crazy. As they're investigating the murder, of course they're saying that, LAPD did some things that they weren't supposed to do in a regular crime scene. Like some of them were stepping on some of the evidence. They even said like some of the evidence that links OJ to the crime is the shoe print that they found towards the back of the house. The shoe print that they found matched a pair of shoes that he owned, and he said that those were some ugly ass shoes. In the civil trial, give a little brief description. He said that they were some ugly ass shoes, but there's pictures of him wearing those ugly ass shoes. There was also blood in his Bronco on the inside. There was blood from that same night, and there was a glove situation. It was just a lot. And on top of the fact that his car was there, I mean, he had to be there at the time. He has no alibi for where he was at the time of the murder. I want to say he had flown to Chicago like right after. So it made it seem like he wasn't there, but no. Time of the murder is not accounted for. So he doesn't have a solid alibi for what happened at the time of the murder, where his whereabouts was. As they collect the evidence, days go by and they're officially announced on TV that OJ is a suspect in the murder and that they're looking for him. So on the 17th of June, that's when this car chase happens, and he's driving down, well, not him, but his friend is driving, his childhood friend is driving down the highway, and he's either in the passenger seat or the back seat, and he has allegedly a gun to his head, and he's threatening to shoot himself. And I mean, this is just a cry for attention as well as guilt, in my opinion. I just felt like, that's what guilty people do. Either they're guilty or they have some type of CTE. And that's like a disease that you get from too much head-on collisions in sports, which he never tested for, didn't want to. He eventually makes it back from the highway, and the police aren't chasing him. Let's just be clear. The police were never chasing him. The police were almost like escorting him to his house. They didn't crash into him. They didn't threaten him to stop. And at this point, he was a fugitive of the law. And so was his buddy that was driving the car. It's aiding and abetting, obstruction of justice. They eventually is getting towards the nighttime. This is an all day thing. This is like all afternoon, all night type of thing. They get back around his place, and there's thousands of people, different races, mostly African American people, made their way to his house. And there's so many people around, they could barely get inside the garage area or inside the home. He stays in the car for a little while until it gets dark, and then he finally comes out. And the friend comes out as well. And they coddle him a little bit, in my opinion. They coddle him a little bit and tell him, you're under arrest. Like, you have to be under arrest. I have to put you under arrest now. And the whole time they're trying to mediate it, while they're in the car, they're trying to get him to calm down and get him to like relax and not do anything crazy and talk him out of attempting to hurt himself. Of course, they have the initial hearing where they charge him with the murders and he's pleading not guilty. And then the trial begins January the 24th, 1995. So, as the trial proceeds, a lot of crazy things happen. And he has the dream team. I mean, he has Johnny Cochran, he has Rob Kardashian, and a lot of other people on his side. And what they do is they play up the race card. Yes, they do. They use the fact that just before the murders was an issue with Rodney King. And it was a horrible, horrible beating and injustice that happened with Rodney King. And then before that, there was a lady named Ela. I think it was Ela Lou. She got shot by the police, I think 8 times over like a light bill or something like that. Um, just craziness. And then after Rodney King, a 14-year-old girl got shot at a corner store while she was trying to buy some orange juice. So the community was just like over it after that. Like that was in between, that was right after the riots and everything, for Rodney King. And the community was like, the black community was just in an uproar. So I felt like the team, they used that. They used what was going on around the time to justify OJ killing this lady and this man. Because that's what he did. He was the only one that had motive to kill her. Nobody would have killed her because she was linked to OJ. Everybody loved OJ back then. So nobody would have killed her. Nobody would have did nothing like that. He was the only suspect. And if there is another suspect, who? Why didn't it name anybody else? I'll wait. There is no other suspect because he did it. And y'all know he did it. I'm speaking to the black community now. Y'all know he did that. You can't try to free everybody because a lot of people are murderers, whether they're black, white, whatever. But there's murderers in every culture. And just because they're the same race as you, that don't mean that they didn't do it. And because they played the race card and because they they upped it on the race issue that was going on in LA at the time, OJ was able to get off for that murder. And I think as the trial went on, a lot of people thought that he was guilty because of how he was acting. He would look at the cameras, like he knew when the camera was on him, he would start smiling. It was just things that you don't do if you're scared. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like you're innocent and you're being prosecuted for something you didn't do, that's behavior that you just don't exude. After the 3-hour deliberation on October 3rd, 1995, he was acquitted of the murder charges for both Nicole and Ron. Ron's parents is the truth, okay? His parents, they never gave up on him. They never gave up. Like, they never gave up. I think that they knew in their heart that he did it too. And it was just what was going on at the time. It was terrible. The black community was the driving force behind the OJ trial. Like, the driving force. I think it was only after that and after the civil case that he made all of us look dumb, is when he got arrested for armed robbery. That was some stupid shit. Nobody that gets off of a murder trial does some dumb shit like that. And that's when I think a lot of black people knew that he did it. Because who would who would do that? Who would go back to jail? Who would? It's almost like he wanted to go back to jail. Who? So he was ordered to pay the $33 million to the families. That was the result in the civil case that happened 4 months after the federal case. And the armed robbery situation was just really stupid. But that was OJ being OJ. For some reason, he thought that the memorabilia was his and that it was stolen. Or you can't steal something that has been auctioned away. His storage unit was auctioned off and people bought the items. So that becomes their items. They're not yours. But that's OJ. He thinks everything is his. Everything that has his name on it is his. And if he wanted it, he should have kept it with him instead of putting it in a storage unit and not paying on that storage unit. But that's just me. It makes no sense. I mean, after watching this documentary, I felt compelled to do this video. Truth is, I haven't felt compelled to do a video at all. Nothing has really like grabbed me and like shook me to the fucking core. But I mean, it's so bad that even when the millions of people that came to his house when he was being escorted off the highway by the police, the black people that were there, when he rode away in the police car, they said that he was like, why is all these niggas here in Brentwood? Like, he doesn't fuck with us. He never did. He never fucked with us, and he never will. And the fact that a lot of our people were supporting him back then, and he just didn't deserve it. There's tons of other black athletes that needed us during that time. They needed our support. Like the guys that hold their fist up and lost their fucking medals that day because they were showing power to the people at one of those fucking Olympic games. They needed us the most. And we let them down because we supported OJ. And I'm speaking to y'all because I wasn't even born, okay? I was born after the trial, during the trial in 1994. That's when I was born. I'm talking about the people that was well in this world at that time. How do y'all feel now? He actually killed them people. And he did a fucking book and said, if I did it. And he did an interview. That interview, if y'all haven't watched that interview that he did talking about the book, and he kept saying, I remember this happened and I remember that happened. You don't remember some shit that's hypothetical. He played in our face. And we supported that because he was black. Because we wanted to see every black person get off. But he's not the one. He's not the one that deserves our faith and our support. Because he don't give a fuck. He don't care. So why should we? Why did we? Because of what was going on? Yes, there was holes inside of the case. Yes, there was things that wasn't done properly. But that doesn't stop the fact that he had no alibi at the time of the murder. There wasn't any other suspects. And he had motive. He was beating her up. He didn't want them to get a divorce. And she was moving on. She was single and she was doing her thing. He had the motive to kill her and to kill anybody that was around her. And for him to do that and know his kids was upstairs, come on, y'all. Come on. He had the only motive. Nobody else in her life would have did something like that. Nobody. It's your girl Ombre Alert. This is part 2. Make sure you leave your comments below and we'll talk about it further. Okay. Bye.